For a long time, people have been asking me, Brett, how did you get your jawline? And I've really done my best to try to explain it to you in all of these videos. But for those of you who haven't seen those videos, it wasn't always like this. Ever since I was a young kid, I always admired those guys, the movie stars that had nice chiseled, protruding jawlines. Arnold Schwarzenegger, Brad Pitt, Superman, and I wanted that, and I realized when I looked in the mirror, they didn't have that. I had more of a sloping, more melted look to my chin and jawline. I looked up all of the jawline exercises, this, that, the other. Some of them maybe worked a little bit, but for the most part, they were futile. Then one day, around 15 years old, I realized there was this one thing that separated those with nice, strong jawlines from myself, and those who didn't. And that was, those who did have nice jawlines were breathing through their nose, and those who didn't were breathing through their mouths. They were mouth breathers, and I myself was also a mouth breather, and it clicked. So at this moment, at about 15 years old, I made a conscious decision to start breathing exclusively through my nose. After all, that's its primary purpose, that and smelling. Your mouth is for eating and talking, right? Not breathing so much. I continued to do some of the jawline exercises here and there, but I mostly just tried to breathe through my nose, and it worked pretty well. Then about the time I started YouTube at 22 years old, people were asking me in a few comments that I was getting, how do you get your jawline? So I made this video. This was my 8th video on my channel, tips to achieve a nice jawline. And in this video, I gave this advice.
Next thing that you can do is correct your posture, okay? Stand up straight, head up, chest out, look forward. And what I'm telling you is to chew gum. Chew gum all day. I recommend just original chewing gum, bubble gum, whatever, and it's gonna give you that more prominent, wide jaw structure.
And click, I uploaded the video. And as I was checking on the video, reading through the 5 or 6 comments that were left below, I noticed this comment by this strange channel called Orthotropics. And the comment read, sounds like you're mewing.
You're watching the video and you're trying to learn how to do mewing.
Mewing.
You're mewing. You're doing it, man.
Mewing is a movement created by the father-son duo of British orthodontists John and Mike Mew. Also, the founders of the YouTube channel Orthotropics, the channel that left that comment I just mentioned. So John and Mike Mew, along with John's father, who was also an orthodontist, over 100 years of orthodontic experience, recognized a pattern. And they noticed those, especially young people, who followed this pattern had not only better, more straight teeth, but also more forward growth of their face and jaw, and overall just better facial structure in general. And from this, they forged the movement based on their last name, Mewing. And there are 3 fundamental pillars of mewing: proper swallowing, hard chewing, and the third, and probably the most important, is proper tongue posture. 2 of those, which I found on my own and even gave as advice in that YouTube video without having any prior knowledge of mewing: the tongue posture and the hard chewing, right? So I'll give a quick summary of each pillar. Proper swallowing. Proper swallowing consists of chewing your food fully to a mush and then moving it to the back of your throat, the back of your mouth, in a sweeping movement with your tongue. A lot of people have this sort of sucking motion, and they get this from habit from when they're a child, you know, sucking on the binky or their mother's breast, and maybe they get off of the binky too late, so they form this horrible habit of sucking all of their food, which results in negative growth of your jaw and also malocclusion, or backwards growth and direction of your teeth. And this is horrible. You want to break this habit, and the way of doing that is practicing proper swallowing. So chew your food very well into a mush, put it at the roof of your mouth, and with a sweeping motion with your tongue, move the food to the back of your mouth, then down your throat. Number 2, hard chewing. So what's interesting is that scientists excavated hundreds of skulls from thousands of years ago, and they made this incredible realization. Almost all of the skulls had great, perfectly straight teeth and good facial structure. And the only reasoning they can find because of that was because in ancient times, people chewed much harder foods, nuts, tough meats, coconuts, things of this sort. Whereas over time, the food has gotten softer and more processed. And in turn, people have developed, weaker facial structures where you don't have to work as hard, where all of the food is just very soft and cushiony, so you can swallow it and eat it without any sort of work required. So you no longer have to work and activate these facial muscles like you used to hundreds of years ago. So the best cure for this in modern times is eating harder foods. If you want, you can eat tough meats and nuts and things of this sort, but I think it's infinitely easier just to chew lots of gum, and particularly hard gum. Now, I knew this, I even mentioned it in this video 5 years ago, and the orthodontist and John and Mike Mew agree with me. So for a long time, I wanted to create a tough gum, and I just recently fulfilled that goal of mine. So let me introduce to you Brett's Jawline Chewing Gum. This is a simple tablet chewing gum that is 10 to 15 times harder than normal chewing gum. So you no longer have to pack your mouth with 5 or 6 pieces of gum. You can simply chew one of these and achieve the same level of toughness. So me and my partners recently just launched this. You can check it out down below. We actually sold out the first batch, but luckily we're getting more inventory in, so you can still purchase it. I'll link it down below. And yeah, I'd really appreciate the support. And we actually sent some of this to Mike Mew, and he agreed and concurred that this was a great product. So we actually got the seal of approval from the grandfather, the founder of mewing himself, Mike Mew. So I thought that was really cool. So that's the second thing I did to reverse my receding jawline that I think you should do too, and that is just chewing hard gum. Lots of gum every single day. I'll put the link for this down below. And of course, the last and biggest pillar of mewing is proper tongue posture. Those of you who regularly watch my channel are probably clicking off right now. I talk about this all the time, but I think it's the biggest, the most hidden secret to achieving a nice facial structure and jawline. You can get an immediate result, and you can get an even better result if you start this incredibly early in your life. So proper tongue posture means keeping your tongue pressed up against the roof of your mouth at all times, especially in the posterior third of your tongue, the very back of your tongue, having it pressed up. The reason is because up until about 25 years old, the cartilage and the fissures within your face are not actually fully hardened and formed. So up until then, you can actually condition and change the shape of your face through time under tension pressure from your tongue pressing up. So if you're sitting around breathing through your nose, you're not activating any muscles in your face or your tongue. You just atrophy all these muscles. Everything just becomes soft and sloping and melted. You get this nerd neck, this kind of melted chin look, which is what I was actually experiencing up until I realized that 15 years old, you gotta breathe through your freaking nose, man. It's a superpower. Well, I have a simple test that you can do. So simply swallow some spit or whatever. Imagine there's something you're swallowing. And then the position that your tongue is in when you finish the swallow is where your tongue should be resting at all times, right? So try it out for yourself. And at the very least, you should have your tongue resting there all the time. But if you want to increase your results, then you should actually have a bit of pressure, a bit of force pushing up against your maxilla, the roof of your mouth. This is gonna even expedite the process, right? So you can start doing this right now, and you will actually see an immediate increase of your submental triangle, this position, this interior right angle right here. This is why when you look at male models, or models, I guess, with really great side profiles, it's because they have a nice 90-degree submental triangles. They have proper tongue posture, and you can achieve that too if you just lift your tongue up. And this constant pressure will help condition your face to form upwards and forwards instead of receding backwards into your neck. So when you try it out, you should see an instant improvement of this part right here, but you're not going to see, forward growth of your face immediately. This is going to take years and years and years. You're only going to see it if you start it at a very young age. The earlier you can, the better, because around 25 is where, it kind of is more concrete and not as much change is possible. So for me, I started about 15, and you can see the improvement. Of course, I wish I would have started earlier at like 5 years old, but hey, you do what you can, and better late than never. So this is the 3 things things that I did to help reverse my receding chin and jawline. Now, of course, I still don't have the perfect chin and jawline simply because you will be limited a little bit by your genetics and also where your hyoid bone sits. Some people, this bone that supports your tongue, if it sits lower, it's just genetically going to be harder to get that right angle. But a lot of people just genetically have a very high hyoid bone, so they're super lucky. They just genetically have nice side profiles and jawlines. Keep that in mind. But this is how I reversed my receding chin and jawline. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Check out my gum. I will link it down below. And until next time, peace.